He walked into the café with the weight of the world on his shoulders, an untouchable billionaire, used to commanding rooms with his presence. But today he wasn't here for business. Beside him was his daughter, silent as ever, her world locked away behind a wall of silence. Then a black waitress approached, tray in hand, eyes warm yet unreadable. She made one simple gesture, and in just 30 seconds, everything he thought he knew about privilege, connection, and humanity shattered. What could she have possibly done? It was supposed to be just another morning. The billionaire had a tight schedule, meetings, calls, contracts worth millions. Yet on that grey winter day, he found himself steering his sleek black car toward a quiet, tucked-away café in the heart of the city. No reporters here, no flashing cameras, just the smell of roasted coffee beans and the hum of morning chatter. Beside him sat his daughter, her eyes fixed on the world outside the window. She had been born without the ability to speak, a reality he'd tried to shield her from by giving her every material comfort money could buy. Still, no gift, no grand gesture had ever truly reached her. She lived in silence, and in his heart, so did he. They chose a corner table away from the crowd. He ordered tea for himself, hot chocolate for her, barely noticing the movement behind the counter. To him, the staff were background figures in a world built for his convenience, faces that came and went, names he never learned. But that day was different. The waitress who stepped toward them was young, black, and carried herself with quiet confidence. Her eyes met his daughter's, not his, and something unspoken passed between them. He didn't understand it yet, but his daughter's expression changed ever so slightly. He thought it was nothing, just a fleeting glance, but in moments, the air between them would shift in a way he could never have predicted. The waitress set the drinks down with a practiced grace, but her gaze lingered, not on the billionaire, not on his tailored suit or his expensive watch, but on the girl beside him. She knelt slightly, coming to eye level with the child, and for a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Then her hands began to move. It wasn't random. It wasn't fidgeting. Her fingers formed precise, fluid gestures, each motion deliberate and clear. The billionaire frowned, confused, until realization hit. She was speaking in sign language. His daughter froze, her hot chocolate untouched. For a moment, he thought she might retreat into herself, as she so often did when strangers tried to reach her. But then, slowly, almost hesitantly, her own hands began to respond. The billionaire's breath caught in his throat. In seconds, they were having a full conversation, silent, yet louder than any words he had ever heard from his child. Her eyes lit up with something he had never seen before, joy. Pure, unfiltered joy. He sat back, watching as the waitress laughed soundlessly, her gestures quickening, her smile growing wider. Around them, the café buzzed on, oblivious to the miracle unfolding in one small corner. But beneath the warmth of the moment, something else stirred inside him, shame. Shame that in all his wealth, all his resources, he had never learned the language that could truly reach his own daughter. And shame at the quiet realization that if this waitress had been a different color, or dressed in a different way, he might have noticed her sooner. 30 seconds, that's all it took. 30 seconds for a stranger to do what he hadn't been able to in years, to truly connect with his daughter. The billionaire's eyes stung, and he didn't know if it was from the steam of his untouched tea or from something far deeper, something cracking open inside him. He had built empires, negotiated with heads of state, stood on stages before thousands. Yet in that moment, in that small cafe, watching his daughter's hands fly with excitement, he felt powerless. Powerless in the most humbling way. The waitress glanced at him briefly, almost as if to check if this was okay, then returned her full attention to his daughter. They laughed, not with sound, but with the kind of laughter you feel in your bones. His daughter was leaning forward now, her eyes bright, her movements sure. This wasn't the guarded child he had brought in. This was someone alive, free. It hit him like a punch. He had never seen her like this before. The weight of all the years he had wasted, thinking expensive tutors and rare vacations could fill the void, pressed down on him. He thought about the countless times she had tried to sign something to him, and he had simply nodded, pretending to understand. Too proud to admit he didn't. Now here was a young black woman, a waitress, someone he might have dismissed without a second thought, breaking through to his daughter. With nothing but her hands, her patience and her presence. The billionaire swallowed hard. He felt small, but in the best possible way. This wasn't about him. It was about the lesson unfolding before his eyes. Connection didn't come from status, money or power. It came from meeting someone where they were and truly seeing them. When the waitress finally stood up to leave, his daughter reached out, not to stop her, but to give a sign he didn't yet understand. The waitress smiled, gave a small nod, and walked away. But the billionaire knew nothing in his life would ever be the same again. The billionaire sat in silence long after the waitress walked away, the warm scent of coffee mingling with the cool air from the café door. His daughter was still smiling, a quiet, steady smile that reached all the way to her eyes. He leaned forward, his voice low. What did she say to you?" His daughter hesitated, then slowly raised her hands, forming deliberate shapes. He didn't understand, not fully, but the determination in her movements told him it was important. He ached to know. Something in him shifted right then. This could no longer be another moment he let pass. He wasn't going to nod and pretend. Not anymore. He called the waitress back over. She approached cautiously, unsure of his intent. "Would you teach me?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. "Teach me to speak to my daughter the way you just did?" For the first time, the waitress looked at him, not as a billionaire, not as a man with power, but simply as a father. She nodded. In that instant, a bridge began to form, one that money had never been able to build. He pulled out a pen, jotting down his number and email. "Please," he added, "name your price. I don't care what it is." She shook her head with a small smile. "Some things," she signed slowly, "are worth more than money." And with that, the first lesson began, right there in the corner of a café, where a billionaire was no longer the richest person in the room. Weeks later, the café had become their meeting place. Every afternoon, the billionaire and his daughter sat in the same corner, notebooks open, fingers learning to speak without sound. The waitress, now their teacher, guided them patiently, her hands moving with precision and warmth. The change in his daughter was undeniable. She spoke to him more in those few weeks than she had in years, not with her voice, but with her hands, her expressions, her eyes, and the change in him was even greater. He began to notice things he'd ignored before, the way she hesitated when people didn't understand her, the way her whole face lit up when they did. He saw the quiet courage it took for her to keep trying. One evening, as they were packing up, his daughter signed something he had just learned. It was simple, just 3 words. "I love you." His throat tightened as he signed back, slowly, carefully, those same 3 words. For the first time, there was no barrier between them. The billionaire knew then that the waitress hadn't just changed his daughter's life. She had changed his. And all it had taken was 30 seconds of seeing what no one else had bothered to see.